So my question would be, and I know in my own business, whenever we started to lose, and we lost 40% of our business, so what we had to do was come together as an organization and say, okay, how are we going to do more with less? What are we going to do to meet the challenge of a market that shrank rather quickly, and how do we get there and still keep the doors open? Now, the reason I ask that is because you put a communication out to the agency, and it says you told all the IRS employees that this year you were going to have to do less with less. Now, I don't think that if you were in the private sector, you'd ever go before a company that was in bad shape or failing and say, hey, here's the problem. Things are looking pretty bad for us. We don't have quite the resources that we'd like to have. Not that we need to have, but that we'd like to have. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do less with less. And my big question is, why would we cut customer service and redeploy those dollars elsewhere? I mean, you're the head of the agency. What was it in your game plan? What was it in your thinking that said, you know what? I think what we'll do is cut customer service, and that way we'll have a better relationship with the tax-paying public if we can make them wait longer on the phone, if we make them wait longer for mail, if we can close down different offices and not be able to do the advocacy that we like to do. I think that's really going to help our position. I really do question that. What were you thinking about when you sent out that memo, and what were you driving to get to? And I got to tell you, you can't run around town telling everybody that you're out of money and that's the reason you can't do your job, and saying it's those doggone people up in Congress. If they just give us more money, we'd do a better job, because we've been telling the American taxpayers that for a long time. If you just give us more money, we could do a better job as a government. So, I mean, seriously, when you had that come together, that meeting, and you put out that directive, what was it that you were trying to achieve? Was it better morale?
I'll tell you what I'm trying to achieve. First of all, we value customer service, but when you cut the budget $1,200,000,000, and we lose 17,000 people, we don't have enough people anyway. So we've cut enforcement. In other words, we don't have a situation where we'll just do one thing or another. The discretionary areas we have is we have to enforce the tax code, we have to provide taxpayer service, and we have to protect taxpayer data and run an antiquated IT system we're trying to upgrade. So if we put more money into customer service, it comes in more people, it comes from somewhere. Even less enforcement, we have 5,000 fewer revenue agents, revenue officers, and criminal investigators. Does it come from IT? Everyone, including us, are concerned about cybersecurity. We're concerned about refund theft and identity theft and refund fraud. Are we supposed to spend even less money on that? We're spending less money in all of those areas, not because we think that's a good strategy, but that's the only choice we have. Now, you're right. Yeah. What does it mean when I say we're going to do less with less? It means that over 5 years of budget cuts, and I'm hoping that we don't have the same dialogue about 2016, the mantra from the funders has been, you should be able to do more with less. And we have done more with less. We're dealing with 7 million more taxpayers than we used to. We're implementing the statutory mandates you have passed. But there is a point for morale when employees sitting there doing enforcement cases or answering the phone, and the person next to them leaves and they know they're not going to be replaced. At some point, the employees have to know, we don't expect you, can I just finish?
Very little time.
We don't, okay, but we don't expect you to do more work than you're already doing since you're already overworked.
Excuse me. Sorry. You can't do that, though, as the head of the agency. If it's about improving morale, you can't tell people how bad it is and how much worse it's going to get and expect better results. And what I've seen happen is the divisiveness that has now taken place, because when you go to the IRS agents, they feel that they're under the gun because Congress is out to get them. When you go home and talk to the American taxpayers, they feel that both the IRS and the government is out to get them. And then we come out with the thing, so we're going to do less with less, and we're going to have less customer service. That just doesn't make sense in the real world. Maybe it makes sense here in being on the talk circuit and talking to people about how hard it is to work with less. I would just suggest to you that there's hardly a person in America today that isn't doing more with less, that hasn't tightened their belt and learned how to work with less. Now, the technology end of it has been a huge help for us, but also a 78,000-page code is probably the biggest problem you have. And the reason you have to have customer service is there's very few people out there, taxpayers, who are saying, you know what, I think I can do this myself. It's so easy. That's why they go to all these different people, and that's why they go to the IRS and please help me get through this very difficult web of tax code that I have to understand, because the one thing I don't want to be on the bad side of the IRS. But my point to you, and I would just suggest this, because you've done this in your private life, you cannot go to the troops and tell the troops that things have never been darker, days have never been longer, winters have never been colder, but you know what? We have a solution to that. We'll just do less with less. I think that's a disservice. I also think that it's further divisiveness, and it adds to the lack of confidence and the faith that the American people have in our ability to work together, because it's not just working with each side of the aisle, it's working with all the agencies that provide service. So I just ask you, I would encourage you, a little more upbeat, but it's spring. Let's talk about the good side of it. Let's talk about where technology has taken us and how much easier it is. But let's make sure that we're concentrating on customer service. Thank you.
Time has expired. I sense